In the heart of West Africa, nestled within the wild landscapes of Burkina Faso, where golden savannas stretch endlessly and the whispers of the wind carry tales older than time, a bond was formed that would one day alter the course of a nation. President Ibrahim Traoré, a man shaped by conflict, duty, and an unyielding love for his land, had once crossed paths with a creature of the wild, a young elephant that destiny had placed in his path. It was during his early years as a military officer, long before he rose to power, that Traoré was sent on a humanitarian mission near the Arli National Park. There, amidst scorched grass and scattered trees, he stumbled upon a calf, frightened, lost, and separated from its herd. Its eyes mirrored the same fear he had seen in the eyes of child war survivors, and in that instant, something stirred within him. Ignoring protocol, he ordered his men to help. They created a makeshift shelter, gathered water, and shielded the elephant from nearby predators. Over days, a fragile trust developed between man and beast. He named the elephant Kunda, meaning strength in the local dialect. When the herd eventually returned for the calf, Kunda hesitated but followed, though not without looking back, as if promising he would remember. Years passed, and Traoré rose through the military ranks, known not just for his strategic mind, but for his compassion in war zones and his refusal to become corrupted by power. He never spoke much of Kunda, but every time he returned to that region, he visited the park and stared into the trees, half hoping to catch a glimpse of the elephant he once saved. Locals claimed that an unusually large bull roamed the area, one who avoided humans but had been seen watching army camps from afar. Some thought it was myth, others swore it was Kunda. As Traoré became president after a time of upheaval, Burkina Faso stood fragile yet hopeful. But peace is a delicate thing in lands where greed and ambition often outweigh loyalty. Unseen by the public, whispers of betrayal crept through the corridors of the presidential palace. Discontented generals, foreign influences, and political rivals were weaving a dark conspiracy, waiting for the right moment to strike. Traoré, though beloved by the people, had made enemies with his reforms, and soon they would strike not in the capital, but far away, when he would be most vulnerable. What no one could foresee, not even the conspirators themselves, was that something ancient, something wild, had also been watching. In the rustle of tall grass and the silence beneath the moon, great ears twitched. Somewhere, deep within the forest that had once offered refuge to a frightened calf, Kunda stirred. His memory, unclouded by time, still held the image of a young soldier who had once offered him kindness. And soon that memory would roar back to life, as fate moved to reunite the wild with the man who once saved it. Within the grand marble walls of the presidential palace in Ouagadougou, where official portraits hung in silent witness and security cameras blinked in routine surveillance, a storm was brewing in whispers. Behind closed doors and beneath the polished surface of official meetings, certain high-ranking generals, men once trusted with the nation's defense, had begun to conspire. Their eyes no longer reflected loyalty, but ambition. Fueled by foreign interests, secret arms deals, and resentment for Traoré's sweeping reforms, they saw his popularity as a threat to the old order. At night, in dimly lit back rooms of abandoned military offices, they met in hushed tones, reviewing maps, calculating movement timings, and securing weapons that bore no official markings. Their plan was crafted with chilling precision. President Traoré would be most vulnerable during his upcoming peace initiative, a scheduled visit to a remote tribal region in the east where he would meet local elders to resolve tensions. It was a gesture of diplomacy and unity, but also a golden opportunity for betrayal. Far from the capital, beyond radio towers and the reach of most of his security forces, he would be an easy target. The conspirators ensured that several of his usual guards would be reassigned. Their replacements, hand-picked loyalists to the coup, would escort him with hidden orders. Fake communications were sent to mislead loyal intelligence officers. Meanwhile, the president, unaware of the danger, prepared for the journey with his usual humility and optimism. He believed deeply in meeting his people face to face, in hearing their concerns directly, and refused to be insulated by excessive protocol. His aides warned him of potential unrest in the area, but he insisted the visit would bring peace. As his convoy rolled out of the capital, armored but thinned, neither he nor the public knew that an ambush was being set in motion. Along the dusty road to the eastern provinces, lined with acacia trees and red earth, the air felt heavier than usual. The president's convoy passed through villages where people waved with hope, unaware of the trap unfolding ahead. At the edge of a dense woodland, where the final meeting was to be held under a ceremonial tent, the assassins had already taken positions. Hidden in the bush, equipped with silencers and military-grade optics, they waited, heartbeat steady, eyes cold. Among them were defected soldiers and hired mercenaries who cared little for politics but had been well paid. The sun began to dip as the convoy approached the site. Tribal leaders had begun to gather under the setting sky, unaware that they too might become collateral damage in a plan designed not only to kill a president, but to plunge the country into chaos. Yet even in this moment of darkness, something unseen stirred beyond the tree line. Far from human hearing, deep in the forest, there was a low rumble. Ears twitched. Massive feet shifted in the soil. The ancient instinct of a creature once saved long ago began to awaken. And though the men behind the coup had accounted for every soldier, every weapon, and every moment of timing, they had not accounted for Kunda. As the presidential convoy halted at a clearing near the forest edge, the late afternoon sun bathed the scene in a golden hue, casting long shadows over the dry grass. President Traoré stepped out of his vehicle to greet the local tribal leaders who had gathered under a temporary canopy of woven palm leaves and colored fabrics. Laughter and respectful greetings filled the air, and for a moment, peace seemed to have settled over the land. But beneath that calm, treachery coiled like a snake waiting to strike. Without warning, the sound of nature was shattered by the rapid, chilling echo of automatic gunfire. Bullets tore through the still air, striking vehicles and scattering the crowd. The ground erupted in chaos. Traoré's guards sprang into action, drawing weapons, forming a defensive circle and returning fire with trained precision. Yet it was clear they were outnumbered. From the forest and the high grass, shadowy figures emerged, mercenaries and traitorous soldiers equipped with military-grade gear. Smoke grenades hissed, blinding the defenders. 2 armored vehicles were disabled in the first 30 seconds. Screams filled the air, and flames rose from an overturned truck as panic consumed the camp. President Traoré, though shielded by his closest men, remained dangerously exposed. He was pushed to the ground, crawling toward cover, while bullets cut through the canopy above him. A guard beside him was shot. Another was dragged away. The plan had worked almost too perfectly. The conspirators had created a kill zone, and now the net was closing. Just when it seemed there would be no escape, a strange tremor passed through the earth. At first, it was subtle, barely noticeable beneath the chaos. But then the ground truly began to shake. The noise of gunfire faltered for a moment as confusion swept through both attackers and defenders. The vibrations grew stronger, rhythmic, heavy. Not the thunder of artillery. This was something else. From the forest's edge, a massive shape burst forth with terrifying speed. Trees cracked and fell as Kunda, the wild elephant, charged into the clearing like a force of nature. His tusks gleamed in the firelight, his eyes locked onto the scene with primal intensity. Trumpeting with a deafening roar, he stormed through the line of attackers, trampling one and hurling another into the air with his trunk. A pickup truck was flipped like a toy. The ambush dissolved into confusion as gunmen screamed, fleeing from the creature they had never expected. Some fired at him in panic, bullets grazing his thick hide. One mercenary, regaining his aim, leveled his rifle at Traoré just as Kunda thundered between them, placing his enormous body as a shield. The shot rang out and struck the elephant in the shoulder. Kunda stumbled but did not fall. Instead, with a furious bellow, he charged the shooter, crushing him beneath a single stamp. Amid the smoke and shouting, the tide turned. Reinforcements, alerted by emergency signals, arrived to find a battlefield scattered with stunned attackers and the silhouette of an elephant standing guard over a wounded but alive president. Kunda, bloodied but unbowed, stood tall as the last of the conspirators fled into the forest. As helicopters thundered overhead and loyalist forces poured into the clearing, the last traces of the coup were extinguished. Traoré, bruised but alive, was pulled from the smoke, his life saved not by politics or power, but by the courage of a creature from the wild. Kunda, wounded yet proud, vanished back into the forest, never to be seen again. But his memory lived on. Statues rose in cities, children sang his name, and the nation whispered his story with reverence. In a world of betrayal and politics, it was a beast of the wild who reminded us what true loyalty means.